In this video, we are going to see how we can pass the data to the components. Before that, let's see what existing things we have on our UI. So here I have a list of employees which I am showing in table format. Let's see the code. In code, I have created here a folder with name props inside the example folder, and I have created an employee list component. We have here a list of employees, one header, and here we have a table structure, and in table structure we are showing the list in the table format. We have already seen how we can do the rendering list. For employee, I have created here an interface. So all this we have already learned in previous videos. And this component I am using inside props example component, and this props example component I am using inside app.tsx. So we have a hierarchy like main component is calling the app component is calling the props example component, and props example component is calling the employee list component. And if you ask me how I applied the styles to the table, just go to the Google and search table in HTML and go to the W3 school website. Here you will find this example. Click on the try it yourself. Just copy all the CSS and go to our app.css file and paste at the bottom. As we have used app.css file inside the app.tsx, so all the styles will get applied to all the components. Now let's move forward. So what is props? In simple words, props is nothing but getting input to components. So the parent component can pass the data to the child component. First understand which is parent component and which is child component. As we have seen the components hierarchy, app component is the parent component and props example is a child component. And if we talk about props example component and employee list component, props example component is a parent component and employee list component is a child component. It means we can pass the data from parent component to child component. As I said, we can pass data from parent component to child component, means we can pass the data from props example component to the employee list component. Now see how we can do that. I also said props are nothing but the input to the component, and here employee list is a functional component. In simple words, it's actually a function. So how we get the input to the function? Here. So I'm naming it props, and TypeScript will show error. For now, I can just say any, or better to define the interface for the props. What data we need in this component? We need a header and we need the list of employees. So let's create an interface for that. So I'm naming it interface I props, or better, most of the time I have seen everyone use like I component name employee list props. And here what we need header will be of type string, and we'll need a list, and list will be of type I employee array. And so we can define this interface to these props. So we want props of this type or this interface. It should have header and it should have the list also. Okay, fine. Now if you jump to the props example, our parent component, it is showing error. This is the beauty of TypeScript. Like, it captures the error and it shows that error. What it is saying? It is showing like type object is missing the following properties from type I employee list props, and that properties are header and list. To solve this, what we have to do? We need to pass the header and list. So in employee list, we have done with the task to take the props. Now we have to work on how we can pass the data to this component. To pass that, How we do? It is just like a HTML attribute. We need header. I can use like this, and header needs some string. So let's pass company list. Okay. It also need one more property to pass. That is, if you see, property list is missing in type. Now we need to pass the list and curly braces. We know list is of type I employee list props. So what we need to do, first we need to take that interface from employee list. So do that. I employee, it is showing like module employee list has no exported member I employee. Just go to the employee list and make this interface as export. This thing will go. Now it is showing like I employee is declared, but its value is never read. Now what we need to define the list here. Let me copy the same list. Let's copy this one and paste inside the props example component at this place. I can name it any name, employee list. Just pass this employee list to the list prop here. Now our error is gone. Let's save this and come to the employee list component now. Here we just need to log the props, console.log and props. Okay, save this one. Come to the browser and inspect it. Jump to the console. We can ignore this warning for now as it is related to HTML. Now you can see here we have the console.log of props, and in props we have here header and list, whatever we have passed from the parent component. Now let's use this one. To use this, what we can do, we can take the header and assign to the variable const header equals to props dot header, and let me use this header at this place. So let's remove this. To use JavaScript inside the JSX, we write curly braces and again take the list from props dot list, and let's delete this one. Fine, save. Now if you come to the browser, here you will see the header whatever we passed from the parent component, and this is the list. You can try changing the name. So let's change John to John Cena, and you will see here the name is changed to John Cena. Back to our child component, that is the employee list, and here instead of doing like this, we can do the object destructuring. Let me comment this. To do the object destructuring, we can write like const, then curly braces to denote object destructuring, and we have to destructure the props, and from prop we need header and list. Save this. This is also fine, or we can like copy this one, and instead of like props we can directly paste it here. So let's remove this one and comment this. We can also do like this, but better not to go with this approach. It's better to destructure it here. Remove this and write here props. So as of now we have seen how we can pass the data from parent component to child component, and also how we receive the data in the child component, and we can use that. Now let's see how we can specify the default prop value. So suppose we don't want to restrict every parent component to pass the header value. It can be optional, correct? So let's do that. In our interface, the header is a required parameter. To make it optional, we need to write here question mark. Now it shows the optional value. Now if you go to the props example, you can remove the header here. We have removed header from here, but we didn't assign the default value. That we need to define here in object destructuring. So header equals to no header is passed. If you save this one and jump to the browser, we can see here header, no header is passed. Let me close the console. And if you pass a header with value company list, that value is going to show here. So this is how we can make the props optional also. Now, few points to remember here. Props are read only. You cannot change the props. Let's try that. So in props.header, I am just assigning a empty and save this one. And come to the browser, you will see nothing is showing here. Let's do the inspect. Jump to the console. You can see cannot assign to read only property header. It means all the props are read only. If you wanted to update any data in the props, you will need to update data in parent component. That is the only way. I hope you get a clarity how we can pass the data. Let me show you one familiar example of props. So we know we have an image tag in HTML, and in image we can pass the src, that is source. Then we can pass the width, we can pass the height, we can add the styles. All these HTML attributes are nothing but passing a props. So props might remind you of HTML attributes. We can pass any JavaScript values through them, including objects, array, functions, and children's. We have seen how we can pass the value, object, and array. In next video, I will show you how to pass function as a props, and after that, what are children and how to pass the children. Now it's time for some exercise. Here you can see we have a form and a company list which we have worked. In form, we have here a field, change header, and text box. So if I change anything here, that is updating as a header. So this is one exercise. And second is, so here we have add employee form also. We need to add name and designation for it. So let's give a name as Joe and designation as SSE, and click on the add. So it should add that employee. And also you can see the ID is also increased. Let's try this example and write down your doubts in the comment section.